Hello, and welcome to Writers Showcase number 20. I'm happy to be here today, especially after the launch of my latest novel, War of the Dragons. It's fully available on Amazon Kindle if you wish to pick it up. I'm probably going to be reading at least a section from it today, just to kind of get some hype going. Anyway, please welcome my guests.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Neph. Always a pleasure. And also welcome.
Hello, Count Valerian.
Greetings, beings, non-beings, and assorted others.
Yeah.
Hello. And we have...
Hey, what do you want to do tonight? The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
Hello.
Hello, Johan. And we have
Hello.
one final guest to arrive. Please welcome Abigail.
Oh, hey, you found a clip of me before I have my first cup of coffee when I get out of bed in the morning.
Actually, that's pretty accurate for me before I've had my cup of tea, so...
It's become a whole game where my partner can't even look me in the eye until it's touched my tongue in the morning.
That's hilarious. Alrighty. Well, I gotta get my round of highs. Hi, Akos Kovac. Hello, Blue. Always a pleasure. Carl Saylor, lovely to see you. Occupation Army. Bakarib. Welcome to the channel for the first stream I believe you've commented on. It's great to have you. And welcome Wise Wolf. If there's anybody else in the chat who would like to be recognized, please just say hi and I'll be able to just say hi back. I won't promise that I will say hi, but I will at least highlight you on screen. Anyway, so before we get started, is there anybody who needs to head out soon so that I know what order I need to do this in?
I don't have anywhere to go.
Okay.
It's Saturday, so... Man.
Q, It's Friday by that one chick. I've forgotten her name. All I know is that really, really weird auto-tuned song that, at least according to Rick Worley, is still better than Last Jedi, which is hilarious to me.
Well, anything auto-tune is better than Last Jedi, so...
Yeah. Well, alrighty. Okay, if there's no people that pressing need, we'll just go Neph, Valerian, Johan, Abigail, and then me. Everybody cool with that?
Sure.
That sounds fair.
Sure.
Alrighty. Neph, go for it.
Okay. So, I'm back to reading Fundamental Feelings. This is chapter 5, because I cut the last chapter into 3 different chapters. So, it's called Third Floor, The Elven Conflict. You do remember what this one's about, right?
Vaguely.
Okay.
Is this the one with the smug dragon?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Okay. December 14th, 2022. Uncrad, 3rd floor, Elven Forest. In one corner of the woods, there lay a door that stood closed. Everyone had heard of the legends of the adventurers who would come and liberate the castle from the sadistic demiurge and his heartless priest. Of the entrapped goddess they would save and elevate back to the throne that had been stolen from her. The corner of the woods with the door leading to the 2nd floor was usually very quiet, though once in a while a small group of elves would come to see if the door had been opened or not. It was because of these checks on the door that the forest elves and the dark elves came into conflict. Each side wanted the adventurers on their side. So far, the door had not opened, but today that would change. In the quiet of the woods, the creak of the door opening sounded louder than it really was. I hate how heavy these doors are, Kirithel groaned as he and Diavel pushed the door open. They both stepped out of the way, letting the rest of the beaters exit the staircase. So, what are we going to do on this floor, Kirithel? Diavel asked curiously, turning to the top beta tester. I don't know about you, Diavel, Kirithel replied as he stretched his arms over his head, but I am going to start on the Elven War Campaign questline. He gave Diavel a grin. Ruby pushed past Asuna to stand next to Diavel. May I go with you this time, Kitoge? She asked hopefully. Asuna watched Ruby for a moment before nodding to herself. I think I'd prefer to go with you as well, Kirito-sensei, she said. Kirito stared between his two friends and let out a long sigh. Fine, he grumbled, turning to the information broker. Are you going to come with me too, Argo? He asked tiredly. He then turned to the resident dragon rider. Would you like to come, Silica? Silica blinked. I can come with you? Sure, Silica, if you want to, Kirito said with a grin. Might as well, Kiba, Argo the fox said with a wide, teasing grin. Kirito sighed again. Fine, you may all come then. Ruby's eyes lit up and she clapped her hands. Yay! Thank you so much, Kitoge! She cheered, hugging Kirito impulsively. Kirito took several steps backward. Ruby, get off! Thank you, Sensei. Asuna gave him a cheerful smirk. Yes, thank you, Kiba. Argo agreed. Kirito rolled his eyes as Ruby let go of him, and he carefully wrapped an arm around his petite friend. Diavel, we will meet you in Dessel for the floor meeting, Kirito said. Then we will see you later, Kirito. Diavel agreed. Kirito paused, turning to stare at Koshin. Koshin, come on, he ordered. Koshin stiffened. But Kirito-sensei, he tried to complain. Kirito's eyes narrowed. I obviously need to keep an eye on you, so hurry up, he stated. Ruby, Asuna, and Argo turned to give Koshin a knowing look. Koshin sighed in defeat. Yes, Sensei, he said, following after the other beta testers. He turned back to Diavel. Where are you going to go while we deal with the Elven War? Diavel looked over the rest of the beaters thoughtfully. Well, the guild creation quest is on this floor, he said slowly. Koka, hurry up! Ruby's voice called. Koshin sighed. Coming, Ruby-sa, he called back to her, giving Diavel and the rest of the beaters a wave as he retreated. Diavel turned to the rest of the beaters. All right, did everyone hear the plan? The guild creation quest, right? Klein asked. Where does that take place? That takes place in Zumpet. Diavel replied. Follow me. The larger group followed Diavel in the direction of the main settlement of the 3rd floor, Zumpet. Kirithel stopped the small group. Now, I need you all to be quiet, he explained, turning to face the small group of players. The only way to find the fight that kicks off this questline is to listen for the sound of clashing blades. Kirithel gave Silica in particular a little grin. Pina's ears are likely to come in real handy for this. Silica nodded. We'll keep our ears open, won't we, Pina? The youngest of the beaters said with a large grin. We can be the group's ears, can't we, girl? Pina chuckled, nodding her head at the question. Well then, now that that's out of the way, Kirithel smirked, let's get going. The small group kept their ears peeled for the sound of clashing steel as they made their way further into the woods. Pina came to a stop and turned her head. She gave a quiet growl, catching everyone else's attention. Pina? Silica asked, looking in the direction that had grabbed Pina's attention. Pina chuffed, bringing everyone's attention to the direction she was looking towards. Asuna put her hands to her ears and closed her eyes. I hear the sounds of a fight, she muttered, almost to herself. Kirithel nodded thoughtfully. Let's go. Kismel grunted as she blocked another strike from the forest elf. She needed to get back to camp where Tilnell was waiting for her to get back with the herbs in her pouch. Why had this intruder been checking out the closed door? Why are you here? She demanded. I imagine that I am here for the same reason that you are, dark bitch, the forest elf knight growled back, his bright blue eyes glinting in the dim light of the clearing they were fighting in. I'm not going to let you sway the adventurers with your poisonous words, nymph, Kismel roared as she dashed forward. The forest elf brought a horn to his lips and blew into it, causing Kismel to come up short. What was he doing? The nymph bastard hadn't brought reinforcements, had he? She'd never heard of them moving around in more than pairs. Now that Kismel thought about it, she found it quite suspicious that the bastard nymph had been alone. It was an ambush. Kirithel pulled Asuna behind a tree hurriedly when he caught sight of blonde hair and blue eyes in combination with elven knife ears. Forest elves. Don't we want to step in? Asuna murmured. And she was quiet at least. Yes, Kosha murmured. It's why I let Argo go. But Argo's Miss Stealth unless you're annoying her. Koshin finished answering his own question. Exactly, Kirithel agreed. Anyways, yes, we want to step in, but at the right moment. You know how we just can't attack during a boss's intro? Same thing. We step in too early, the system will reset the trigger. It's not the hard reset of many games, where the quest re-instances, but we'll have to wait for another of the 6 triggers, Coca? 7, but no one liked the play the bumpkin one, Kosha explained. Play the bumpkin... Silica began, then winced. Strict and precise triggers? Dialogue and action-based, Kirithel expanded. Yeah, the timing on that sucked, Ruby noted. And you had to stay in the role until you hit the triggers right. Ugh. I'm all for encouraging role-playing, but there's blocking without showing the actor the script, Kosha agreed. Asuna slowly nodded. So, same cues as with a boss fight when the name and HP bars appear? Yes, Kirito agreed. Except in this case, we choose a side to back too. The Forest Elves or the Dark Elves. Whichever side we help here decides which version of the questline we follow. I see. Any other questions? Why did you pin me between you and the tree? Kirito shot Asuna a narrowed-eyed look of disbelief. A total coincidence that means nothing in the long run. Do you still have auto emote off? Backing up, Kirito waved the point off. I prefer it off. Asuna peeked around the tree. Well, I always liked a help the underdog story. Ruby patted her back. Well then, Asuna, when it's time, help the underdog. What, I lead? Yeah! Get him, Asuna! Silica quietly cheered. Pina gave a nod and a snort as if to say, who else? Well, okay, Asuna said, bracing herself. When the bars appear, protect the lone elf. I'm all for elf improvement. Everyone looked at Koshin. No, Kirito said after a moment's silence. Sorry, the glasses-wearing player murmured. Kismel panted, staring up at the group of people who had come to her aid. This was the first time she'd seen anyone with rounded ears. Were these people adventurers? You all right? Kismel turned to see that it was the girl who had led the charge when they had come to help her. The frankly beautiful angel of mercy. Red hair. Was hair that tone of red, auburn, really a human thing? Yes, I'm all right, she replied with a smile. Thank you. She trailed off. I'm Asuna. The red-headed, maybe adventurer introduced herself. Silica, could we get Pina to heal Coca again? The blonde called. This idiot got his arm chopped off. It was unavoidable, this Coca sulked. Sure we can, can't you, Pina? Kismel and Asuna turned to see the youngest brunette settled atop a light blue feathery dragon ask the dragon while patting her mount's neck. Seriously, Kosha? The apparent leader of the group, a young man with black hair and dark gray eyes who looked rather familiar, asked. How many times does this make since you appeared in the beta all those months ago? 10? More than 10? Beta. Was he talking about the test runs from several years ago? Kietoke, I think it's closer to 50 than 10, the tiny blonde replied. 50? Kirito said faintly as he slowly lowered his head into his hands. Great. One of my friends is suicidal. Oi, that's not fair, Kirito sensei. Kosen pouted as Pina breathed on him, his missing arm regenerating. How is Pina able to be smug? Kosen asked, as Kirito pulled him roughly to his feet. Our Pina is a dragon. Your argument is invalid, Silica said with a grin that was as smug as Pina's rather expressive face. Asuna giggled, catching Kismel's attention. A lovelier sound Kismel had never heard. Eleanor Base. Oh, before I forget, Asuna said as the group followed Kismel. Kirito-sensei, what is that bottle item for? Kirito pulled out the crystal bottle of Kaleso, and tapped the item to open the description. I don't remember this item from the beta. Do you, Ruby? Ruby leaned against Kirito's side to get a look at the description. She then took a moment to check the beta logs. I think it was always in the game, she said, choosing not to blatantly lie to him. Let me do some data mining later to make sure I'm right. Would you please get off me, Ruby? Kirito almost demanded. Ruby pulled away with a smirk. Does Kirito fear the snuggles? Kirito sent her a flat look. Anyway, I'm guessing that you got one of these too? He asked, turning his attention back to Asuna. I did, Asuna agreed, and I'm pretty sure everyone else got one too. Kirito looked back and got nods from the rest of the group. Out of the corner of his eye, he could see Gizmo slip into the tent they'd been led to. It should be safe to explain. Well, the description says that it acts as an extra skill slot, he mused. So, I would suggest we do one of two things. They all came to a stop outside the commander's tent. And that is, Asuna pressed. Either choose a hobby and keep the skill in the bottle until you have room for it, Kirito replied, meeting Asuna's eyes fearlessly. Or you can place the next skill of your choice in it and get a head start on that to build your character. The commander will see you now, Gizmo said as she stepped out of the tent. Are we all needed, Gizmo? Kirito asked. Just the ones in charge, the dark elf replied. I see. Kirito nodded. Asuna with me. Let's go. Asuna blinked for a moment, then grinned. Coming, Kirito-sensei, she said, taking several quick steps to catch up with him. Though it was odd, was Leo biting her lip as she passed? Ruby watched the two leave for a moment. It wasn't hard to read their emotions, even with Kirito's auto emote turned off. It was obvious to her that Asuna liked Kirito too. Ruby managed to smile, and why shouldn't she? Kirito was amazing. They were her friends. She could tell that Kirito liked Asuna too, as a friend. Ruby smiled as her processors worked. This was a long quest line. She could use it to get closer to both players, and she was looking forward to doing so. Commander Dane Hagala watched silently as a familiar young man walked into the war tent. Dane remembered Kirito fondly from the test runs, so Dane was looking forward to working with the adventurer again. It is nice to see you again, Adventurer Kirito, Dane said, before Kirito could even open his mouth. What have you been doing since we last saw each other? Kirito's eyes narrowed. I believe you are talking about the test runs? He asked. Then he muttered something about going meta on them all. Dane didn't pry. Adventurers had their strange ways. I am, Dane agreed. After a moment, he gently waved an encouraging hand. Well, how have you been? Dane could see the young man debate with himself over what he should say. Nice kid, but you could wait 5 minutes for non-answer. Could be better. More open than he was before, Dane reflected to himself. Well, he'd be nice to the poor boy. I seem to remember how willingly you helped us before. That is why we are here, Kirito replied. And yes, the young adventurers seem to find this an easier topic. I know that there are several tasks that you need someone to do. We will do them. Yes, I had hoped you would agree, Dane smiled. Do you need lodging? We do, Kirito replied. There are 5 of us. We can easily accommodate you, Dane said with a large smile. Gizmo and Tilmel will take you to the free lodging we have. I thank you, Kirito said. At the obvious dismissal, he pulled Asuna with him out of the tent. Nice kid, Dane said to himself. Wonder if he realizes he's harem bait. And that's the end of the segment.
Nice.
Very nice.
I really like the conversations of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good subtle characterization there. I have no idea how Sword Art Online works, but I imagine this is a fairly good representation of it.
Come on.
Thank you.
More amusing dialogue, I see.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a fun listen.
Are some of these characters in the other story, Hazana or something sounds a little bit familiar from the other one? Hazana?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the same person?
Yes, it is.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think Sword Art Online. Yeah, I guess like it's actually I think that's actually Neph's avatar's Asuna.
Yep, that's me.
Oh, lovely.
Nice.
Is she the one who zaps the person in the intro, or is that someone else?
No, that's someone else.
Ah, okay.
Interesting. Well, all right. Capillarian, the Belair Arioft.
Yes, I decided to own it and be the pun.
Yeah.
As a wise man pointed out. So I'm still eating
Yeah.
a little bit, so hopefully no one will be annoyed by that.
Well, the thing
You're
is,
unhappy with the ending. No, I question your basic writing credentials. This guy isn't a functional adult.
I don't know what I'm not sure how to apply that. Fair enough, though. Okay.
yeah. There's also this one. I love this
You
one.
pompous, negligent, iTunes gift card as a holiday bonus giving mother.
Yes, that's
That
Dragon
always
Cup-
makes me laugh. That
Very
always
eloquent.
does it.
Here, a moment. Let me open that. Oh, sorry. I was just muffled just now. Half a moment. Let me open the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what I'll do. Maybe I'll try showing you the map again.
I don't know if you think is it going to play into the chapter in terms of travel or
Yeah, I mean, there's not travel in the chapter, but they're in a different city now, and it won't.
will the audience really be able to like tell what city based on the map?
I could explain it to them.
Sure. Okay. Okay.
Okay. See the isthmus, the island off the isthmus. There's a city there called Tena. That's the capital. That's where they are now. That's where the court is. They come from that big island to the west of Aura. And sorry, I'm still eating. If anyone's in, okay.
Well, you gotta have your num nums. Your num nums.
Very important.
Yeah. And hopefully it
You
doesn't
do.
annoy anybody. But anyway.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know if have I gotten to show this one? I do quite like this one.
What the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah.
Nobody can take over the world in an empty stomach.
Yeah.
Nope. Nobody can.
Yeah. Dan's just playing.
It's like
okay, now I need to find it.
Yeah, I'm just playing it for funsies to entertain the chat.
Well, it's entertaining to us too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotta love Dragon Demands.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I,
here we
I, I
go.
need to, I do need to like say this one joke. So people ask me how do you write so many freaking books?
Sheer
The answer's this.
willpower, Nino.
Sure will.
I love DuckTales so much.
I have
talking
only
birds.
ever seen the Genie episodes and the first few episodes. Other than that,
You're missing out. You
I'm
need
I'm
you
currently
need to find the old versions, not the new stuff. The new
I'll
stuff
compare and
is meh.
contrast. I'll compare and contrast. Maybe there's some interesting things in both. DuckTales, woo!
Ooh.
I don't know the rest of the song. Like,
Life
There's-
is like a hurricane here in Duckburg.
Duckburg.
Aircrafts and
I know.
airplanes here in the world. There is a mystery, then in the history. Da, da.
Woo!
alrighty. You ready, Count Valerian?
Mhm.
Sorry, 1 second. Okay, now I'm ready. Brief summary. Margaret and Barama have been invited to court. The emperor wants to invite them into his Barusa, a kind of a harem thing, even though they're only 12 years old, which, yes, is kind of disgusting. So now they're staying in the capital. Okay, they stayed in the old palace as long as they safely could, and did a little sightseeing in a mostly vain attempt to take Margaret and Barama's minds off their coming ordeal. The attempt might have worked better had they not been constantly flanked by guards. They experienced in the process a side of Sandoranian culture that had largely been buried under the hearth and then burnt. The most extreme example was perhaps the assembly hall, a long timber structure, now largely a ruin and partly burnt out, where the council had met to advise the kings in the days before the Chuggan conquest. I never knew Sandoranian kings had to take advice from an assembly, said Barama. Half a second. I read something about it in Father's library, said Margaret. I'm glad they changed that, of course. The Emperor knows better than all of stupid subjects. Then they saw the pyramidal old library made of sandstone. It held unfashionable books, so access was denied, and made an excursion to the Turanian theatre in the Kwarata district in order to attend a classical Turanian play entitled, oh dear, half a moment. Titi Paranatrumu, or The Cuckoo and the Tree Penguin. Cuckoos are, as in many cultures, I'm sorry, I have to page up again and then page down. Cuckoos are, as in many cultures, associated with adultery in Turanian culture, while tree penguins, although only found in the woods of southwestern Turania, are symbols of fidelity. The drama concerns the way sinful passion destroys a man's soul, while the virtuous wife, though suffering misery and death in this life, is rewarded in heaven. In a climactic moment in the first act, the villain and the virtuous wife hear a cuckoo singing, and the villain inquires, I'm sorry, half a second. Kunyangivid. Do you hear it? Using a causative of the verb to hear. On the surface, this refers to the song of the cuckoo, but it is meant as a subtle and understated way of proposing an adulterous affair. The lady's response also uses a causative, but with the implication, alas that I hear it, or would that I heard it not. By this, the heroine means that she's not interested, sorry, but it could also have meant, I suffer from my passion for you. The ambiguity gives the chap a chance to pretend he has not been told off, although we all know, it's a famous story, that he has. But most of this subtext was veiled from the eyes of Barama and Margaret, who were bored much of the time. Although unlike many children today, their reaction was not, this is boring, but I am not learned enough to appreciate this. Why is it such a big deal whether she hears a cuckoo or not? Asked Margaret during luncheon after the show. I don't know, said Barama. Why is he upset when she says she hears it? What's the difference between Angnivid and Angagavad anyway? I'm blessed Karat if I know. We haven't got to the causatives of perceptive verbs yet. Angagavad is a dyslogistic causative, explained Garawada. She means she doesn't want to. This is the play that, the first time it was performed in Terrania, provoked a civil war, added Pilamar. Why? Asked Margaret. The introduction varied from the approved pattern, replied Garawada, or so they say. These Terranians are mad, said Barama. I feel really ignorant now, said Margaret. If they have the book in Father's library, I'll try reading it, and maybe then I'll understand more. Okay, and that is that.
Nice. Oh, there's a slight echo.
Is the echo still here? It's still there?
Yeah.
Hey, Shiny.
Yes, it is.
Oh.
Oh!
Oh, it's gone. And he's gone. Alrighty. Bye, clone. I know that you were using a slightly different style with this one as opposed to like third person limited. This was more like third person omniscient. Is that what you were going for?
Yeah, I mean, I guess though, I think most of the story is mostly written in the third person.
Well, I mean, like, there's a kind of a difference between like third person omniscient, in which like it's the narrator telling you certain things, versus third person limited, which is you're just in one character's perspective.
Oh, like point of view, yeah. I go in between the two because sometimes I have to explain things about the culture, and then I have to go off into the omniscient mode for a bit.
You could always use footnotes.
Yeah, I think footnotes are, I don't know, I'm not sure I want to increase the number of footnotes. I'm trying to reduce the number of footnotes in this book. For a while there were like, at one point I think there were about 60 footnotes. I think there actually were 100 footnotes at one point in this book.
Wow.
So I'm trying to cut down on footnotes.
Well, one of the greatest things about Good Omens is actually the footnotes, so...
Yeah, Terry Pratchett's got some cool footnotes in his books.
Yeah, like the story of CSM Narker, the giant witchfinder sergeant major who could clear the felt faster than a Gatling gun with his steel reinforced bell giant book and his special candle could many and it would be better to have him on your side than a battalion of Gurkhas.
Oh, okay. That's not the kind of that we had a different kind of footnote from dyslogistic causative blah blah blah. So I had one of the characters say dyslogistic causative instead because I figured they must have learned it in school when they learned the language. So I gave that part to one of the characters, but a lot of the rest of it, yeah, I'm not sure I want to. Yeah, I'm not sure I want to increase the number of footnotes beyond what it already is.
Oh, that's a good point. I actually really like. I haven't read this third Bartimaeus trilogy book, but I've listened to the first and second, and I very much enjoyed them. It's a very good way of shifting from third person limited to first person limited in the same book, where Bartimaeus' stuff is all in one, all in first person, and then everybody else is third person. He's like,
Yeah.
it's a drastically different tone, and it's really funny.
That's actually how Kawahara wrote Sword Art Online.
Alrighty. Well,
so
Johan, it is your turn.
All right. I will say this at first. It's not fully completed, but it is until the part where they finally enter the creep factor. So that's how far I got. So far.
Could you give us some context, a little bit more context?
Oh.
I don't know if you've read on this show before, so.
Oh, you want to hear some context? All right.
Yes.
I'm trying to write a book.
Also introduce yourself. I'd love to. I think our listeners would love to get to know you better, unless they already do. But for anybody not watching, please introduce yourself, as this is your first time on the show.
Okay. I'm Johan. Hello. I normally do drawings, so I work on projects. I'm now currently working on one for Hex Hopper, and I'm drawing a combination between a moth and a hawk. So that's how far I got. I already finished one project. That was the boat project. I delivered it today at my sister's house. So this week it will then be delivered to the ship, and then will be hanged there near the dinner table from the captain's office. So that's nice. I started listening towards your streams because I just wanted to write a story which I always have in my mind. So that's what I'm now trying to do. I already completed most of the outlines, and now I'm finally started writing it. I try to use books to get a better way of, writing, because I'm very terrible at writing because it's not my native thing to do. So that's how far I got. The part that I'm now gonna read for you is the Temple of Mantoria. It's about that the group finally arrives at the temple after they finally had their speech with the chieftain, and they will look for the energy source inside of the temple, which they need for their city. But there is a demon on the loose, and they have been warned, but most of the group does not believe in demons, so they don't feel the threat.
Cool.
So that's how far I will give you the information. So let's start. Let's start reading it down. Hold on. There you go. It was part 7, Temple of Mantoria. It was a long day of travel to the Temple of Mantoria. When finally the group arrives, the sun slowly going down, creating the beautiful orange lighting on the temple. The temple itself is engraved, and the gates closed. The group looks around for answers on how to get the gate open to enter the temple. Jonas looks surprised when investigating the temple structure. I must say it's very impressive how well the structure still stands considering its the state it's in. He looked at the stones, already showing signs of dilapidation. In most cases, this would have considered a sign that the building would not have much years left before it collapses under its own weight. Grieger looks worried. Do you think we should be prepared to go in and expect the rocks to will fall on our heads? Jonas laughed and pats Grieger on the back. Well, if you would build a building out of wood and rocks, yes, that would be normally the case. But Grieger, take a look at the roof. It has been reinforced. It's much stronger, so it should not cause those rocks to fall unless you provoke it. Grieger looks at the roof himself and breathes a sign of relief. I was almost worried there. Going into a building and needing to worry about more things than just a monster. The conversation gets interrupted when Jerry curses to himself when he tries to read the text on the wall near the entrance of the temple. Well, lads, we have a problem. I can't read this shit. It's encrypted. Well, that's indeed a big problem. I don't want to be outside when it's dark, so hurry up, you guys. Sarah nervously replied, well knowing that at night the big predators start hunting for food. So Jerry, you say it's encrypted. Well, what is the problem when then that causes you to not be able to translate? I thought you were a master of translation. Warden replied, with a confused look on his face. I can see the letters, but they don't make any sense. It's like they are symbols instead of words. Jerry's getting nervous. This is the first time his spell didn't work, well knowing that this might hurt his reputation. Symbols? Really? What kind of symbols, Jerry? Jonas replied, while taking a look at the door himself. The text tells about a snake that shows the way. But Jonas, no symbol on the door says anything about snakes. Jonas starts thinking really deep for a few minutes. I got it! He shouted. Shira, would you be so kind to show us the way in? She looked at Jonas with a confused face. Wait, you need my help? Is this some kind of joke? Jonas pushes her slowly towards the door. No, not this time. But you know the constellations by hand. So would you please stand in front of the door and point towards the snake? She finally gets what Jonas is thinking about. She moves to the door and starts pointing towards the snake, and touches the symbols that she pointed out, and it works. Nice one, Jonas. But how did you know that she? How did you know she knows that the constellations by hand? Sarah asked. Well, when we all went to sleep in Baldin at a stormy night, I was still up writing to my wife. After some time, Shira came back from dinner, and we had a long talk. She showed me she was a real fan of the constellations and how pretty they always looked, and told me all about them until when the storm resided. And since one of the constellations is a snake, I thought I might give it a try, and I was right about it. Jerry congratulates Jonas upon for solving the puzzle door. The group ventures inwards into the temple itself. As the group enters the temple, the torches are lit, revealing great carvings and texts on the walls. As the group goes in, 2 big statues representing snakes are revealed. They put towards a long hallway with no light at the end. The group follows the snake's direction, well knowing they lead the way. The hallway is long and narrow. It feels like there is no end in sight. The group sees some blue light at the end of the hallway. A strong breeze snuffs out the torches and carries an awful smell with it. What the hell? Gives away such a smell. It makes me feel so sick. It smells like rotten flesh. I never know that these people were cannibals, Gregor reacted, covering his nose and mouth with a handkerchief, and started looking for his firestone to relit his torch. Jerry looks at Gregor. Oh God, that smell! How did it get here? He almost started to throw up, but holds it in. The rest of the group covers their nose and mouth, seeing that 2 people became almost sick from the smell. Jerry finally recovers from the horrible stench. Okay, Gregor, I must admit that smell is definitely the smell of death. But I don't think these people. I don't think the people in the village are cannibals, since I had a long chat with a chieftain of the village of Morati. According to the chief, the temple was designed as a treasure vault for the gods they worshipped. It's not a temple where they bury their dead. Then explain to me, Jerry, how the hell this smell got here? Gregor looked pissed, well knowing that if it is undead, he won't get much gold out of it. If this is gonna be undead again, I'm not gonna be saving your ass this time. Beasts are okay to deal with, and so are monsters. But undead, just don't fucking die. They waste so much resources. I'm not getting paid enough for that. Sarah looked at Gregor, then back to Jerry. Would you both please cut it out? I'm sure there is a logical reason why this awful smell of death is around here. As the group arrives at the corridor, where there are 2 ways. One leads to the blue light, and the other leading to the horrible smell. Which one should we investigate? The first scene first, since I don't want to be out. I want to be out of this temple as quickly as possible. I can't stand these dark corridors, since I swear I saw something move near them. So I vote for the blue light. Shira looked spooked. She moved closer to Wodan, asked him to protect her. Jonas, I think the blue light might be the source, so I vote as well for the blue light. Shira looked at Jonas. Jonas nodded back. I think you're right, Shira. The quicker we find it, the faster we can get out of this place. After all, it looks like this place gives people the creeps. Also, the snuffed out torches worry me a little bit, since it's not very smart to walk in the dark if there are traps. I'm glad we have not yet encountered any. So, if we go to the blue light, we should relight the torches first, so we at least know the way back. Gregor finally relit his torch and equipped his shield from his back. Since I don't want to deal with undead, I vote as well for the blue light. At least we can see something instead of relying on these torches, since I really want to use my sword. You know what? Here, take this torch. I'm gonna draw my sword as well. He shoved the torch into Sarah's hand and readied his sword and shield, ready to go in like there is gonna be a fight soon. Jerry looked at the two entrances to see if one of them had the symbol of the snake on them, but to no avail, and signed. What is it, Jerry? Sarah asked. There is no symbols that represent the snake. Here, it seems like one of them. It seems like one of the corridors might be a trap, but I'm not sure. Jerry responded with frustration on his face. Wooden looked at Jerry, pats him on the back. Jerry, you solved our problem. I guess so, Woden. Hey guys, I think we should go to the blue light as well. The other one entrance might be full of death traps. So where are we going now? Grigor asked. Wait, yeah. So are we going now? Grigor asked. Yes, Sarah responded. And so the group heads towards the blue light. The further they go, the more snakeheads they start to see on the walls. The entrance leads towards a large round chamber supported by pillars. The yellow sunlight comes through the small opening. The lighting in the middle of the room is a golden yellow light, giving the snakehead in the middle of the room its golden look. The group moves towards the center of the room. Somehow, they don't see the blue light no more. Like it just vanished into the shadows of their vision. And that's it. So far I got.
Very suspenseful. Very intriguing.
I liked it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's good.
Yes, intriguing. Most intriguing. I have a vague feeling that the Moonlight Way might not end up being safe because everyone thinks it is.
That's the whole idea of it.
Just
The blue light represents the demon. The other way in was actually the way to the energy source. So and the demon can teleport. That's the whole idea. That's why the blue light just disappears from the shadows.
Interesting.
It's like a shadow demon. It can teleport with the shadows, but it leaves a blue trail behind. So, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, that's how far I got. So I'm happy that I could share this with you guys. And with all of you people.
Thank you. It was enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. Alrighty. Abigail, it is your turn.
Yep. This came up suddenly enough that I thought I'd just read chapter 2 of the same book I read last time.
Okay.
I just had to pick out a bit that should take not too long, so let's see. Now let me pull up the document. Okay. So, in keeping with just keeping things in order, how many times am I going to say chapter 2? Let's go for 2 and let's go for 3 and just get started. All right. Book 2, Crossroads, chapter 2. Someone's boot snapped to attention outside of Marin's room, and someone mumbled outside the door. She did not have enough reach to fix her hair. The best she could do was sit straighter as the door in the tiny room opened. She kept her face measured and blank. Well, she tried to. But she felt that her 6-month-old mask slipped as a new Turk stepped into the room. She did not recognize the face. Not exactly, but despite the ponytail holding up his black hair in a style she'd not seen him before, the mark on his forehead said it all. Another familiar person that she knew of but had never met. The man had his own perfectly unreadable face as he held a folder in his hands. A very slim folder, a very slim and new-looking folder. Marin did not know what to say, so she waited for the other person to start. I apologize for the delay, miss, and the accommodations. He waved at the cuffs. It has been a strange day, so I've been dotting my I's and crossing my T's, as it were. Just an aside, guys, outside of the story, I'm not a voice actor, but I'll try to use something to try to differentiate the narration from dialogue. Anyway.
Okay, I'm not one either. So
Yeah. Just a little something, but I'm not a voice actor. I won't actually sound like Sung.
Don't worry about it.
And you are? Marin feigned ignorance. You may call me Sung. He made it sound less like the Z sound sang Marin had always assumed, and more with the U sounding Sung. One of the many trials and tribulations of reading a word on a television screen in a video game, then hearing it out loud. She'd been pronouncing that name wrong for over a year now. And Miss, you are? Marin Oakley. The surname had been a fabrication, but the first name was real. She had used others, had given others. 6 months in Gara had been a long time for her. Using her real first name about town had felt like she really had moved in. As quickly as she had tried to leave hours before. Anyone she knew here would know her by that name. Sung made 9 people outside of Gara, 9 if she also counted the ones that had died on her. Sung was polite but firm, not delaying overmuch on further questions. Where are you from? I had an apartment a few blocks from here. Shit, she thought. Had? She tried not to shake her. Sorry, I can't parse this sentence. All right. She tried not to get rattled with her use of had. I have an apartment a few blocks from here. Rent is due tomorrow. Her joey bag had been taken with her weapons. Upon being searched initially, her wallet and a knife had been found hidden on her person. Within seconds, all of her other weapons and materia had been confiscated. If she never saw that gun again, she would not cry, but she wanted that materia back. She needed it back. You live in Gara, yet you were found miles out of town. Marin sighed. Yep. According to this report, your bike was stolen. Mm-hmm. You lived in Gara for how long? The Turks could be very thorough. She had no idea among those that knew her in Gara were alive or dead. Danny, she knew. She also knew what little she had told the other townsfolk about herself, what little they thought they knew of her. And if anyone could talk to the Turks, they would eventually. I've lived here for about half a year. And you chose today to leave town? Yep. Who with? She closed her eyes, bowing her head. She could not wipe the tears forming in her eyes. The chain wouldn't let it. My boyfriend, we were eloping on today of all days. Sorry.
You're fine.
Just need to find my spot again. We were eloping on today of all days. Another lie. Danny was not interested in people like Marin, but traveling as a romantic couple was the simpler lie. Sung did not wait. And before you left Gara, in what capacity were you in town for? She swallowed a cough. She had not had any water since she'd started crying. She almost said was. I'm a waitress in the bar. Which bar? Derry's place, but everyone around here just calls it the bar. I see. Do you now, or have you ever had any associations with the group Avalanche? What? The question had left her off base. She found herself looking up at the man that had never taken a seat across from her. I will not repeat myself a third time, but do you now, or have you ever had any associations with the group Avalanche? Fuck no, they're terrorists. Well, true for Marin, it was not true for Danny. Not that Sang could question a corpse. Marin had spent the last 8 months on this planet trying not to forget what she knew from the video game. At the same time, she tried not to think about certain tidbits of information, such as a certain cell of Avalanche in a certain city of Midgar, who she had never met and may not have even formed yet. She tried not to think about her life on Earth, or Danny's past associations with another branch of Avalanche. Anyone knowing what she knew would only lead to awkward, penetrating questions and the wrong sort of attention. That woman, Marin declared, the one that had stolen her bike. Was she Avalanche? Marin was angry. She did not need to act on a pretend emotion. I'm not at liberty to say. Marin scrunched up her face with rage. Well, fuck her anyway. She slammed her fist on the table with what little clearance the cuffs allowed her. Fuck her! Hours before talking to a Turk, Marin stopped at the highway on the ramp just outside of Gara. She had a decision to make and not much time to make it. Danny, what's behind us? Dust, smoke, a lot of smoke. Marin looked behind them and the mess of what was happening quickly in Gara. Fuck the map, we'll just pick Danny, hold on. Danny had not yet hugged her again as she gunned the engine. Hold on, Marin, someone's coming. He leaned back to watch behind them. Danny, hold on, we're going. No, wait, I recognize her, I think. Danny! Against her better instinct, she listened to Danny and turned around on the bike to look behind them both. A woman was rushing down the road unbelievably fast on foot away from Gara and towards them, straight at them. Her coat was flaring behind her. She was clearly empowered by a time spell, haste for speed. Marin had wished she had that time materia. It could have slowed down anyone chasing her or sped her along. The woman rushed up to them, talking faster as well. I need your bike, guy. She paused and took in Danny's face. You! Marin gripped her handlebars tighter as the woman recognized Danny's face. He had deserted Avalanche months ago to stay on the road with Marin and eventually join their other friends. There's no time, I need the bike. Marin said no, just as Danny stepped off the bike. Danny! Marin yelled at him. The woman produced a gun and leveled it at Marin, slowing down her words just a bit. I don't care who you are, or how you, the woman gestured to Danny, are alive, but I need that bike. Marin raised both her hands and kicked the stand down. Fine, take the bike. She stepped off the bike and gave up her quick exit away from Gara. The woman glared at Danny. She clearly knew who he was, and as she, with magical haste, got on the bike and gunned it before taking off, leaving Marin and Danny by the side of the highway. Marin went to tug Danny off the road and onto the shoulder as the woman circled at a normal motorbike speed while she decided which of the two roads to take away from Gara. Come on, Danny! What happened next was almost too fast to take in. A black form came streaking from Gara, too fast for Marin to follow with any detail. There was a flash as the front of the bike fell off. The rest of the bike kept going forward over the pieces. The woman seemed to phase over the top of the bike to face down the black form. Marin stumbled back with a shock as the form came to a stop some feet from Danny. Danny was still looking onto his boss, well, his former boss. Marin stumbled and fell back from the road, her butt hitting the ground as a certain soldier in a black coat and streaming gray hair faced the woman down. The woman responded to the wrecking of Marin's bike with a salve of her own. Catching the man in black with a giant fireball of Faraga, he was ground zero of the blast. Marin was just outside of it, but she could still feel the magical heat as all of her exposed flesh immediately popped with sweat, which evaporated right after. It felt like she was facing an open steel mill oven. It was so unbelievably hot. Danny was caught by the edge of the blast, all the way inside the radius of the flames. Marin reached for his hand and started screaming as the flames licked around his body. He was still facing down the woman as his form disappeared into the flames. It was maybe 3 or 4 seconds of flame, and it took another second for the spot for Danny to be in to just wisp away to smoke to nothing after the fire magic faded. Materia flashed to heal him as she tried to take Danny's hand, but she could not heal nothing. Her mouth was stuck open in a silent scream, her hand frozen at the end of her healing spell. The man in the black coat stepped out of her view and towards the woman. Marin did not hear the exchange. A tiny part of her brain registered that the man in black had been untouched by the flames. The woman of Avalanche had bad intel. Sephiroth was immune to fire somehow. It was the last thing that should have been used against him. Marin brought down her hand that had cast a spell and found herself hoarse and unable to speak. Danny had been the last other person from home that had still been alive. Now Marin was alone. Her chest burned. Her ring to Jamie had absorbed the heat. The cheap titanium ring was burning her skin. Marin had been the one to give her a titanium ring, a cheap promise ring, over a year ago. And even Faraga could not melt the titanium. Marin had found the ring after Jamie had died and kept it for itself. It did not take long to cool, even as death rained down on the woman of Avalanche. Marin's throat was raw, but there was now no other sounds issuing from her throat. The ring was all she had left. They were supposed to get married one day after they tried living together on Earth. The woman of Avalanche by the road was saying something. Marin did not make it out as the woman was cut off by a gurgle, choking on something. Marin stood up as the man in the black coat finished the woman off. For once, for this one time, Sephiroth was not Marin's, not the villain yet. Wutai had yet to lose the war against Shinra. The Shinra Electric Power Company. Sephiroth was still a soldier for Shinra, had not gone insane, and not tried to destroy the world and everything in it yet. Some Avalanche wench had failed to kill their strongest enemy and taken Danny down as collateral damage. As Sephiroth finished off the other woman, Mary had very little time to do anything. She did not stop to watch. She twisted on her heel and zipped into the tall grasses by the side of the road. She would have nothing left to bury of Danny, but she could try to ghost through the wild grasses to get further from Gara. Interlude. Danny opened his eyes. He was laying in darkness. Something was shuffling around. He reached for his gun. It wasn't there. His eyes adjusted to the darkness. The edges of the inside of the fridge-sized crate became obvious to him. The smell of garbage and stink of the alley hit him like a brick. There was no blood, no heat, no fire. He squeezed his fists. They felt weak. His calluses were gone. The smell reminded Danny of where he was. He remembered being hungry and alone. He had been chased away from the food bank line for looking like he did. So hungry and abandoned, he had taken shelter in a box behind a store. That hunger, the bone-tired exhaustion, and cold sleeping on the ground was back, as if the last several months had never happened. But the muscle memory remained. The alley was suddenly quiet. Whatever had been digging around had gone still and silent. Danny closed his left hand around his backpack straps. Quietly moving to a crouch, he leapt forward. "Not this time!" he screamed. "What the fuck?" Someone who looked like trouble jumped back in surprise. Instead of finding a sleeping Danny, Danny's instincts kicked in. He had no weapons, but he had shock and awe and surprise. Danny was halfway out of the alley by the time the other person had drawn their knife. "Not this fucking time!" he shouted, running out of the alley and making a ruckus. Danny ran. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs ached even more than they did before. Then he slowed down to a walk. Swallowing his pride, he started walking. This time he was going to ask one of his friends for help. That last fight did not feel like a dream. It felt real. He had really been there. Marin, his old boss Elf, and some guy in a long black coat. He remembered the smell of burning. He expected to be burned, but he was unhurt. Even the knife scar on his belly from training with Avalanche was gone. He was in an alleyway on Earth and he was back home. "Marin," he said to the late night street. There was no answer. He thought, "I'm alive. Are the others? Jamie? Sam?" He had no idea where Sam lived in this city, so he was headed to either Jamie or Marin's house. It had just been for the one night. He had tried to survive without his family for one night. But those months ago, before traveling to that other world, he had no idea what he was doing on the street. He still didn't. Danny had no idea how people could do this day after day and survive, but they did, and he could not learn it on his own. So he trudged off to look for help. He started walking and decided to go to Jamie's house first. Whether or not she was the closest, it would take hours to get there without bus fare. There's a bit more of the chapter, but I'd be cutting it halfway in order to not go over time, and I feel like that's a nice spot to stop at anyway.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, chapter 1's one of my shortest chapters, shorter on average, so I can't finish a chapter on a showcase unless I rework where the endings are, but that sounds like an edit that I'm not going to do, midstream, so.
Midstream.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I go, "Oh, wait, that's not right. God damn it."
Yeah, there's some sentences that reading them aloud, I'm like, what was I thinking? That's not, I can't, and then my brain starts fumbling the words because, this sentence makes no sense, and then my tongue goes,
Yeah.
Yeah, I catch stupid errors when I'm reading on the showcase too.
Well, I used to use a what's it called? Balaboka, which is a free program that does text to speech, and while it doesn't work for creating a audiobook, it works to help you. It works because it reads it aloud for you, and so you can catch all of your little itty bitty mistakes.
And Charles was talking about an echo, and I got confused at first listening to it. And I have a theory that the echo for my read was of my microphone is good enough, and my headphones have enough sound leak that sometimes the sound going into my ears is being picked up by the microphone.
I didn't hear an echo. So...
I didn't hear an echo either.
I did,
No.
and it looks like Charles did too. It was really quiet, and I figured it was me, but I just like blew over it because it was quiet enough. It wasn't overtaking what I was saying.
It's fine.
But anyway, other than talking about like the craft in general, what did you think?
I like the intrigue that you're going for. Is Avalanche like a secret organization in the world of Final Fantasy?
In 7, it is, and because of my research into the all the games involved in the series, it goes way beyond what is known to exist in the original Final Fantasy VII game. I'm trying to hit the balance between not going into giant exposition dumps, but like at least 2 people now have jumped in and be like, I want to read it. I've never played either a Final Fantasy game or a Final Fantasy VII game, and one guy is like, hey, Cloud, I know who that is. He's in Smash Brothers. I'm trying to write the world building with that in mind so that someone who's never played Final Fantasy VII or most of the planets never played the cell phone game before Crisis, which really goes into all the other branches, like many other branches of Avalanche, before the events of the original game. But like it was a cell phone game that was in Japanese in Japan and English in Australia like 15 years ago. So only people that have hunted down on YouTube know it. So I'm trying to like, if you've never played it and have just enough information that, okay, I understand that is a thing that is going on. That yes, Avalanche is a terrorist organization. And yet there are other branches with other people that Marin likes and branches that she doesn't. And also an alibi to hate Avalanche for the terrorists. I'm sorry, Danny, your death was an alibi.
Wow.
Wait, there's more. He's alive on Earth again. What's that? Oh, I don't know. You have to keep reading. I'm hoping before the new year I start posting chapters on AO3. I hope.
Nice.
Cool.
Well,
Alright.
that's what I try to do too. Get enough exposition that you don't need to read or watch or play any of the fandoms that I write for. But it's kind of hard.
Yes, it is. So I watched various playthroughs of Final Fantasy VII Remake on Twitch over the course of 2 weeks. Then I spent about a week going over many of the other compilation games. So it's like, hey, you need to study up for my fanfic by watching this 11-hour video, this 5-hour video, and no. I'm trying to have like just enough that I'm not like, not so much the middle 2 books at all that parallel the prequel Crisis Core, but like book 4, I've tried to avoid being like Final Fantasy Remake, the book, but with an original character that watched it all happen. No, I'm trying to create my own story and, you know, like an agent of change, so it's not just like the audience in the universe watching the story take place, you know? I'm trying to not let my original character become the audience vicariously existing in the world. Or
yeah,
like
that can be annoying if not done properly. Very, very annoying. Ugh.
it might kind of be happening anyway, but if I'm aware of it, maybe I can fix it when I get to that part in the edit. But adding more stuff, you know?
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I don't read self-inserts. Because, oh my god, no.
You know which one is actually the worst kind of thing to really read?
What?
Oh, I have the PDF for it. Empress Teresa.
Oh god.
Yeah. So we got a couple of options from War of the Dragons. So I have a couple of options. So one is kind of the introduction of the antagonist, and the other one is a dragon battle over a city, and the other one is a an escape from the city via dragon. What would be the three options? Well,
I would say
oh, go for it. Sorry.
I would say go for one. I would love to hear that. How you do that.
Introduction of the antagonist. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me find it. Better. Okay. So this is actually chapter 3 of the War of the Dragons, and you can find that on Amazon, both in paperback and hard copy. Let me actually pull it up on the screen so that people know where to find it. Dun, 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 dun. I think the paperback is actually, the paperback cover is a little bit better than, oh, never mind. Kindle is better. There, the full thing is wraparound. And on, let me see, let me pull back a little bit. So this is kind of the this is just the cover that I found online. It's very nice. I couldn't find the artist like so I could credit him, but this is the book that this is a section of the book that I'm going to be reading. If any of you want to get the full version, it's available on Amazon Kindle. I might do deals in future where it's just like anybody who gets like the first like 5 or 6 copies gets it like at a discount or for free or something, but we'll see. Okay, so this is chapter 3, The White Hand. The common room of the Storm Goose is as rowdy an inn as anybody could ever want from a tavern. The people drank and chatted, then ate and drank even more. The town had been built on the farthest south section of Carthian, close to the border with Numenor. The black demon banner hung limply over the battlements of the wooden palisade wall, but nobody paid it any mind. There was a storm outside, and there was good enough excuse to get together with friends at the pub. Our bloody king have done nothing for us, Tom belched, just as a thunderclap punctuated his remark. How long has he been cooped up in that damned fortress of his? Who knows if he's even alive? Aye. Old Billy took a sip of his wine and scowled. If a war happens, we'll be the first to get raided by those damned Dragonlords to the south. You mark my words. Agreed. Milk. Tom belched again, then tipped his cup back. It was empty. Damn it. he muttered, voice slurring as he tried to grab the jug and refill his cup. You've had enough, Tom. Rosie, the barkeep, grabbed the jug away and held it out of his reach. Come on, Tom nearly fell on his face as he attempted to retrieve the liquor. Rosie easily fended him off by the simple expedient of placing her hand on his forehead. He tried to reach forward, but she kept him at arm's length with minimal difficulty. Come on, Tom, it's time to get you back yourself home to your wife. Oh, come on, Rosie. Tom sat up and rubbed his eyes, trying to get his vision to clear. I heard you talking about the king earlier. Rosie whispered. You should leave soon, or else cut out that sort of talk. Who's here to listen? Tom waved a drunken hand dismissively. The white hand is everywhere, Rosie hissed. Please stop talking like this. We're all good neighbors here. Tom chuckled. The candles in the common room flashed as if something had extinguished them. You should really listen to your friend, neighbor. The rich voice preceded a sudden burst of blue light appearing in place of the flames. The temperature in the room dropped rapidly, and the fire in the hearth turned a bright blue, frost appearing on the logs and the stones of the fireplace. Rosie shrieked and dropped the jug, but a pale, ill figure in a black cloak caught the jug and replaced it on the table next to old Billy. Tom swallowed and looked up at the black-clad figure standing next to his chair. It was a man with a face as white as milk, but a single bright red eye gazed balefully down at him, while the other was an empty socket with a scar running across it. A swatch of red at across the left side of his neck and cheek opposite where his eye had once been. It looked like a terrible burn. Lord Odin Whitehand turned his single red eye toward Tom, hand caressing the hilt of his sword. So, neighbor, what were you saying about the king? He remarked, leaning down to lock eyes with Tom, long white hair framing his extremely pale visage. Tom looked away rather than meeting the spectral man's gaze. Tom pushed himself off the seat and dropped to his knees. Please, forgive me, my lord, I beg you. I have a wife and children, please. Then why are you here, drinking yourself into a stupor? Whitehand frowned, tugging at the twisted blotch on his face. If you cared about your family, wouldn't you be with them? Tom racked his sluggish brain to try and come up with a defense for what he'd said. How much has this creature heard? Please, I was drunk, my lord, he begged, raising his clasped hand. Please. Why should I believe you? The wraith-like man remarked, drawing a dagger with his left hand. Slowly he set the blade against Tom's eye. If you can give me a good explanation as to why you are spouting treason, I won't slice open your eye. Tom didn't move. He just swallowed. Please, I was drunk. I am drunk. Please, don't kill me. Whitehand slowly retracted the dagger and began spinning it through his fingers. Fair enough, he remarked, glancing around. I didn't come here to this small town to eavesdrop on drunken, dissatisfied men, but to find more valuable prey. He pulled a set of pictures from his side and set them on the table. Gasping in relief, Tom looked down at the pictures to see that they each depicted a man's portrait. These men have stolen a dragon egg from the king's own vaults. I want them brought before me. Slowly he turned toward Rosie. You know something, don't you? He remarked, casually reaching a hand and taking her by the hair. You were concerned about my whisperers being here. Were you simply chiding a drunken miscreant? Or were you trying to hide these traitors and murderers? Murderers? Rosie started crying. My lord, they said they were agents of the king on a secret mission. Please, I didn't know. You couldn't have, the white hand said gently, releasing her to slump on the ground. Where are they? In the cellar, she pointed. Please don't hurt me or my family, I beg you. Odin slowly handed her a coin and pressed it into her hand. Those men will be the only ones to suffer my wrath, neighbor. There are 4 of them. Will you slay them in their sleep? Rosie asked. Oh no, that wouldn't be sporting. Odin gestured for her to lead him toward the cellar. Take me there. Now. he commanded, grasping her arm and urging her to go quickly. Tom swallowed and rushed down into the night, stumbling through the rain. Odin released Rosie's arm as she pointed toward the door. There they are. Please, just don't hurt us. As I said, Odin said quietly, opening the door and walking in. They're the only ones worthy of my justice. Without another word, he closed the door behind him and locked it. Rosie glanced down toward her belt to see that he had taken the keys with him. The sudden sound of screams and yells of horror coupled with thuds of bodies falling to the ground. Rosie swallowed and leaned against the door, trying to hold back shudders at the horrible screams. Abruptly, it went deathly silent. Hand over her mouth, Rosie held back sobs of terror at the unsettling silence. The knock on the door caused it to jump. Who is it? She squeaked. A key slid under the door, a bit of blood on the metal. The one who spared the drunkard, Odin's rich voice remarked. Rosie quickly pulled the door open to reveal the White Hand himself, with a long pale sword in one hand and a large red stone in the other. Swallowing, Rosie turned away from the weapon, but not before she could see that the sword was covered in blood from hilt to tip. Not a speck of blood stained the wraith-like man's clothes. Hesitantly, she looked down the steps toward the cellar basement. The 4 men she allowed to hide down there lay dead on the ground, several of them missing limbs, and one of them was decapitated. Horrified, she leaned against the wall, covering her mouth with her hand. I do apologize for this mess. Odin picked up a napkin from a nearby table and wiped it clean of blood. This should more than compensate. He handed a bag of coins to her. Thank you. Rosie swallowed and nodded, shrinking away from this creature of death and horror. Slowly he strode out of the inn, the flames turning from blue to red, leaving a more natural light behind. A roar shook the inn on its foundation as a massive albino dragon with pearly white scales and bright red eyes dropped from the sky above and landed in the street. Snarling, the beast lowered its neck to allow its master to climb onto its back, stowing away the object in his saddlebags. Silently, the dragon spread her at its wings and threw itself into the air. Sagging in relief, Rosie slunted to a nearby chair and started drinking as much alcohol as she could. And that will do it.
Really nice. Really nice. I like it.
Love it.
Nice.
That's
What
why
were
you
some? What were you kind of? What were the things that engaged you?
It was the way he spoke that had me on the edge of my seat. And the way everyone else reacted to him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely scary, at least to the people there. He's not scary to his family, though.
Of course he's not.
It's a family
Well,
man.
some people are scared to their families.
Yeah. I could read the rest. I could read like more of it, like how he interacts with his family, but like we actually read a little bit yesterday where he actually takes his family to a play and just spends time with them.
I remember that.
Yeah, this is the same guy.
He reminds me a little bit of that Richard Fenris chap, kind of dry.
Yeah, I tend to write a lot of people similarly in some ways. At least like my my utilitarian characters who are like
Understated.
Yeah. Yeah, I much prefer kind of like if I want somebody to be intimidating, I'll usually try to use like I don't like using the temper tantrum method of intimidation. I much prefer kind of just understated, I will slice open your eye if you do not give me a good reason to let you leave.
So more Vader, less Kylo.
In a lot of ways, yes.
Good.
And
I
more
prefer Vader to Kylo anyway.
Or like, I guess like a better example might be Tywin versus Joffrey, because Tywin, like, when Tywin like says he's going to do something terrible, you kind of believe him a little bit more than Joffrey, even though they're both capable of horrific acts, but it's mainly because Tywin possesses a killer instinct and resources, whereas Joffrey's just a brat who will mostly do stupid things.
Who is more likely to give in temper tantrums.
Yeah.
Tywin is also a bit riding on his own reputation. Like I think the subtext of one of the things is that like, come in and obey the king, or I'll kill everyone in this building and salt the land. And they're like, I'm not bowing to that king. And then he had everyone in the building killed and salted the land, and now the rains are no more, kind of thing. And Tywin has that kind of reputation going ahead of him, like Vader, where people are like, oh no, it's Vader, we're screwed. Kind of thing, as opposed to Kylo, that's just like cutting up a bunch of consoles with violence and tantrum.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like that because like the baby tantrum is easy, but building a strong character with a strong personality and an earned reputation, it's harder to write. It has a better payoff. Well, harder, air quotes, relatively. I mean, it's writing either way, but yeah.
Yeah, words are hard, but if you don't put in the effort, people can tell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I tried to make this. Yeah, I tried to give this guy kind of a really like solid entrance because I knew like kind of it's gonna be like shifted around a little bit later. There's some neat little like twists and turns that I do with this one that I'm very proud of. That'll kind of play into the ending of the book, where kind of this guy kind of slowly loses a lot of things that are that he prizes, and that really kind of destroys him as a person in a lot of ways. And
now I remember what I wanted to say. I liked the implication of violence of just the door closes and I feel like on the edge of my seat. What is he doing? Oh no! Screams and then silence.
Yeah, that
I also like the way you described this man, how he walked in and then the whole tone is set, and that's really important.
And he knows when to be merciful too, so that's a nice touch. He doesn't just go and kill everybody.
Yeah, it's kind of just that idea of like a display of a kind of just like this subtle display of force, as opposed to just saying you committed treason, you're gonna die. It's just basically like he understands that this guy's basically just braying like a jackass and doesn't really mean anything. He's just drunk, but this kind of gives him a valuable object lesson opportunity.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like characters that do that.
Mm-hmm.
It makes them scarier. Because I could kill you, but I decided that you're not worth my blade.
The effort.
Yeah,
No,
you're not worth the effort.
Not worth the bother.
I could cut off your head, or I could not bother. Yeah.
You haven't offended me enough
to warrant me killing you.
I'm in a relatively good mood right now.
Yeah. I'm in such a good mood.
You know what? I will let you live.
Yeah. That's kind of
because I know you're drunk and you don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, you're just kind of an old curmudgeonly idiot that isn't really worth my time, but provides an object lesson that I can just kind of like say what I am. And I kind of like, as well as kind of like the little bits of magic, like kind of subtle magic, like where the fire turns blue and it just frost covers the mantelpiece and the logs. It's instead of cinders.
Yes.
It really sets the tone. Just nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ice cold.
Ugh.
Yeah. But that's kind of an example of like how I introduced one of my villains. Maybe I'll read something from Blood of the Dragon next time, where I kind of just reveal a couple of the bad guys, but we'll see. Anyway, I think that is about all for the day. If you guys would please pimp your shows, or pimp your anything you would like people to find.
You can find me on Space Battles. I have a lot of fun over there. If you've got a account, or if you don't, stop by, and if you like what you read, then maybe you'll get an account.
All right.
Oh, me? You can find me on the Discord, on Commander Dunn's Discord, and I have some parodies and other weird things. There's a website. It's kind of a lengthy URL, so I won't give you the website right now. Some Tolkien parodies and other weird parodies are gathered over there.
All right. Johan, I know you have a channel. Please.
That's true.
Sure.
It's the name in at the bottom of my icon, and it's the icon that I'm always using. So that's my channel, and I normally do drawings from Monday. I normally do the projects from Monday to Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday I like to live stream games if I have the time.
All right. Well, now that that's all through, thank you all for coming. Thank you to the chat. Thank you, Charles Calkins, Occupation Army, Blue, Becca Reeb. It's been very fun to have you on. Thank you to all my guests, Neph Champion, Count Valerian, the Belarioft, Johan, and Abigail. Thank you all, and
Thanks for having